Good morning, afternoon, whenever I decide to launch this. I hope you're having a good day. I'm Marc Wagner, DentalBytes. I always state that I'm excited. I'm maybe a little extra excited. Don't get jealous out there, other guests. I have a really special guest on. I just ran into him at the ODA or somewhere. We spent some time out in the Ontario land. Interesting market out there. Not too unlike what's happening here in Vancouver, but definitely, there's just more people out there. I'll ramble, but let's just get on our guest here, Dr. Dennis Marangos. How are you doing today, sir?
Fantastic, Mark. How are you tonight? Or it's night for me, and it's a Thursday night that we're
It's
doing this. But you know what's exciting?
yeah.
Vancouver is
What's
still in the
exciting?
playoffs, and the Leafs are not.
Hey, listen, I didn't want to get into it. Okay, like I didn't
Let's
want to get into it. What a What a game last night. What a game. And there's this meme going around right now in Vancouver, Dennis, that it shows sort of like a timeline of a game night and what that looks like. It's the initial before the game is, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see the game. And then the timeline during the game is like, oh, I want to kill myself. This is just so stressful. And then there's a little timeline at the end that says, "Oh, we won." That's this team. I don't know. There's something about Vancouver, and I'm going on and on. And I don't want to like rub this. Not I'm not rubbing it in or
No, it's
anything here, Dennis.
go
But
for
it's
it.
been
Go for it.
we
I
haven't seen playoff hockey in 10 years. We had the bubble. I don't think the
Yeah.
bubble counts, but it's really
Well,
cool to
guess
see
what, Mark?
see the Canucks.
Even though Toronto's been in the playoffs, we still haven't had the playoffs. I mean, we can't get out of the first round. So, anyways, there's always next year, as
Uh,
they say.
it's so unfortunate. Like like the amount of firepower. Like we won't dive too deep into this, but I definitely think the Leafs will make some changes this off season, and
Well, they
it
already
was
did. They
like this
fired the
year.
coach today.
They did today. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's already
Yes.
starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. And then there's the question on Mitch Marner, and like this
Mhm.
year was like, okay, I'm whatever happens, I'm just happy if the Golden Knights don't make it through, and that's already my dream has already come true. So
There you go. That's funny. That's good.
so how you were in practice today? How was the day? You were mentioning before we started off, you're diving into some AI. Let's hear about this.
Yeah, yeah. So we got some cool stuff going on in our practice. We've back in 2019 we got our first scanner, and it was the Trios 3 shape. And it's things like that that keep us old guys excited, and the passion just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So fast forward to now, we just had a half day training on Tuesday on our Diagonal Cat AI, 2D and 3D
Oh
imaging.
yes.
Yes, what a game change! Like that's fun. And then we also had training
No
on a new
kidding.
scanner.
Yeah.
So now we've got two scanners and the Diagonal Cat, and everybody is just excited because we're learning new stuff. My I had So today we kind of booked it that it was a new patient day for me, so I could get used to a new workflow that we're creating for our new patients. And
Awesome.
I had one of the patients. She said, I've been going to a dentist all my life. This was the first real dental experience I ever had. So, and
Really?
and yeah, and I said, please tell me, like, what do you mean? She goes, it was an hour. You gave me so much more information about my oral health, and your technology just blew me away. And she goes, I get it. I see
That's
it.
cool.
I know. Let's do.
Yeah.
And we go. And so their history, those two new patients, they have a really challenging history, but we converted them. they become fans of dentistry again, at least in our practice. So when you
That's
talk
cool.
about
Dennis, which practice were you in today? Your TMJ clinic, or were you in just general practice today?
general practice today. My TMJ clinic is a totally different animal. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
market at all. I mean, it's all word of mouth because I can't handle the patients that we're getting. So if I even
I'm
tried to
sure.
market, like I got nothing. I mean, there's only so much, right? So
Right.
um, these
Yeah.
new patients in my general practice are were referred from other patients, and those are the best patients that you can
Right.
absolutely ever get. Knowing that you're a marketing genius, I think we're going to delve down that area a little bit. And you see, I got gray hair.
Yeah.
So when we started
Yes.
right at the ODA, I think it was the next booth to you was the Patient News Publishing Group, the newsletter people.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I worked
Yeah.
with them like 5 years ago, and that was the extent of marketing in those days, right? Newsletters and stuff. And now it's
Right.
evolved to the level that you're doing it at, which is kind of beyond my scope and stuff. So, but I'd love to have this
Dennis, we
chat. And
call it marketing. It's called marketing diversification these days. So yeah, there's also all sorts of different parts that work together, and ultimately, getting in practice. Like let's backtrack a little bit here. I want to hear about a little bit about this. It was a DinoCat. Is it a diagnostic software? It's an AI driven diagnostic software.
So the way it works, it integrates with our digital radiography and our dental management system. So we're using Dentrix and Dexis. So what happens is the system is web-based, and it's comes through our server. So the first thing we have to do when we come into the practice is just log on to their website and open it up on all our computers. So, for example, when I went to do a hygiene check today, our hygienist Raymond had it on his system. By the time I got in there, it was just a little bit slow today. It had already pinpointed three areas of decay and a quadrant of concerns regarding periodontal bone loss. So, like
Wow.
it was pretty seamless, and we don't even know what we're doing yet. So I can't wait to
Right.
really get going on this, right? So it's up and running, and I can access it from any of the computers. I can access it from home if I ever decide that I want to uh, look at look at charts at home and do something. But it is this is I attended a lecture at the ODA by Fluke, and Lou Graham was lecturing, and he was talking about his experience, and then I introduced him to this group, and he comes up to me later and he says, "Okay, the program you're getting is like a bazooka compared to what I'm using." And I said, "Holy crap, like what you were using was impressive." Okay, so I can't wait to
Yeah.
get into that level of being able to do this. And ultimately, the big question is for a lot of dentists is, well, are there privacy issues? Are there diagnostic issues? Well, the software identifies pathology. It's up to us
Right.
to confirm it or agree with it and then treat accordingly. Just like anything we do, like a radiograph doesn't tell you, it just identifies some, or
Hmm.
you see it, you have to identify it. This takes it one step further. It identifies it. It's like a highlighter for us to go there. And
Yeah. Amazing.
we generated some dentistry out of it today, and things that I would have missed. So that wasn't bad.
That's cool.
That was really good.
And like, like, I, I, I don't really understand the fear on all this stuff. Like, I think the fear is not understanding, the capability of AI. Essentially, what have built in now is a digital assistant, right?
Exactly.
Our human eye will not be able to see everything. We miss things all day long. So, you know, I've got a good friend in bariatric surgery, practicing here in Richmond, and he's got some of these same tools are up and coming, and you know we're now in a point of time where we can actually save the patient's time, and then in my friend's case is we're actually saving lives now with this technology. So
Mhm.
I use AI all day long now. Like I can't imagine my life without it. And truly, it's going to be embedded in every single piece of software. To like the software companies will to compete will have to include some level of AI piece in their offering to make it competitive against the other like softwares that are surrounding them. It's not going away. So, it's either you
Mhm.
get into it and just dive into it and figure it out, or you're going to be, in a lot of cases, kind of left behind.
But Mark, I think, okay, again, you're talking to an older practitioner, and everybody,
Yeah,
if anybody, we're the ones that should be more worried about it. But we have no fear. People don't have fear using AI on their phones, on their laptops. We don't even know that it was AI until it was labeled AI. Then all of a sudden, the robots are going to take
that's
over the
right.
world and we're done, right? But it's been in dentistry longer than we know, just not labeled that way.
It's the fear of change, I suppose, right? But I mean, we talked about the intraoral scanner. That's a kind of a standard of practice now, right? Like
That's AI.
10 years ago, and it's AI's built into it, right?
Sure.
I mean, imagine your life without the intraoral scanner.
Oh, right now, yeah, I think since 2019 we looked at it. I think I've taken three impressions, actual old analog impressions.
All
Now,
right,
having said that, you need to, in order to take a good scan, you need to know how to take a good impression. Because what happens today
sure,
if the power
yeah.
goes out and you have to, so yes, I mean, you can't, ignore technology. You have to know old school to be good at the new school.
I think it just allows your brain to see to understand it more. Like when you're looking at a screen, it's showing you 3D, right?
Mhm.
But you don't really. It's not really 3D. It's 2D. You're moving the image around in different 2D on the
Right.
screen. So like having a more tangible 3D feel of things, you understand more.
Hmm. For sure, for sure. But for
Yeah.
dentists who
Yeah.
are stuck, and dentistry is a very challenging profession at the best of times. And if you don't
Yeah.
keep yourself challenged, you will get into that rut, and then you're going to look for the
Yeah.
next latest greatest solution. Meanwhile, it's been staring you in the face all the time. Something I get asked this question regularly in my lectures. I have a budget. I want to buy some equipment. What's going to give me the best return on my investment this year? And typically that gets asked
Yeah.
towards the end of the lecture after they've seen what we do and whatever. And and it usually gets asked by somebody who has been really engaged in the presentation. And typically I say, when was the last time you invested in yourself and your staff? Then it's one of these.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I said, before you invest
Yeah.
in technology, you've got to invest in your staff and yourself to be able to take advantage of what technology has to offer. Because I bet you there's, however many
Yeah.
dentists are listening out there, there's going to be half of them that have bought equipment that is still either sitting in the box, sitting on the shelf, that they haven't actually implemented. We're good at that. Salespeople love us because
Yeah.
dentists, I mean, we buy stuff. Okay. Yeah, we buy stuff and
Yeah.
don't use
Yeah.
a lot of it. Okay. Meanwhile, in our practice,
Yeah.
when we get something new, we bring it, like even if it's a new cement, it doesn't hit the clinic in the floor until we have an in-house training. We break the box open, we break down the pieces. This is when it's going to be used. This is when I want it. Boom. Now we take it to the operatories and it gets used. Equipment's got to do the same thing, because if you don't invest in
Yeah,
your team, you're going to be lost. You can have all the technology you want, but if your front desk doesn't know how to answer the phone, you're dead in the water. And we had to have a
absolutely. Yeah.
meeting. You had to have a meeting today, about that process. And I don't know if we're going to get into the some of that, but I think it's actually one of the most critical parts of any dental practice. And coming from the marketing world, everybody wants to know, how
Yeah.
am I going to get new patients? And my question is, what are you doing with the patients you got?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You looped it back. You looped us back on track here, Dennis. Good work. I'll just a thought on just a thought on sort of expanding your own scope of knowledge. At the end of the day, everything's a tool, right? So when you're using that tool, there's always like a lot of bells. Like it might be the tool might be collecting dust, but the tool might also not be being fully utilized as well. And I see that a lot too, like, yes, equipment and sort of the clinical side of things, but I see that on the front end. There's software and all these different connecting technologies to the practice management. At the end of the day, we have two things happening at the front end. We have the sort of the patient facing, which is a critical piece as well. The patient facing, which is the internal marketing piece, and then we have the kind of the sales scope of things too. So what we're seeing out there now too is there's actually entities and companies that are outsourcing that sales part of the front end, where there'll be a call center. The lead will come in from the marketing campaign that's happening out here, come into the call center. They'll field the call. They'll get all they'll ask them the questions, take all the insurance information, and then hand deliver that patient to the front end to let them sort of book them into the practice. So it's super critical. And you sent me this stat, and like this is just seeing this stat. Like you've sent me, like I love it when like every now and then it'll be like once every couple of weeks or every month I'll get an email from you saying, "Hey Mark, take a look at this stat." And the one stat that just like boom blew my mind apart was this. There's this company down south. You know who they are. You can back me up on this. They did 12,000 ghost calls, and was like 35% of them went to voicemail. Now I'll add to your stat because I got this stat from somebody else. If you don't handle somebody now within 5 minutes of them reaching out to you, you're 25x less likely to have them as a client, have them as a customer, and less likely for them to buy your service or products. 25x if you don't handle them within them seeing that advertisement to converting them.
Mhm. So, Mark, that goes to my point about the element of return on investment. So, back to that, that was a study I read in a paper by a company called the Scheduling Institute, and out of all the stats,
Yes.
only five, it's a 6% of the calls of the staff members asked for a caller's name. So they didn't even ask for the person's name, and they're trying to talk to them.
Yeah.
So I had a new stat
Yeah.
today, actually. I was just reading this paper today that they said the average conversion rate percentage for a new patient inquiry is 23%. So that means for every 100 calls,
Really.
only 23% of those people are being scheduled for an appointment. Okay, so
Wow.
yeah, so do you blame your marketing or do you blame your front desk? Even worse is
Yeah.
dentists don't know how to track that. So we have a tracking sheet,
They
okay?
they
And
yes. Yes. Good.
You know,
Yes.
we have a, you know, you have to have a system. So I like, you know me, you've attended my lectures, you know I'm a system. I got systems for my systems, okay? And our system
Systems all day
is
long. Yes. Yeah.
all day long, because if something goes wrong, you can fall back on your system and say, okay, where did we miss the boat on this particular event? Okay. So, you know,
Yeah.
we have what we call is the pink sheet. So whenever we have a call, I expect my staff to fill in the pink sheet. And what's on the pink sheet? First
Love
thing,
it.
caller's name. Who's the caller? Okay. What did they call? And let's triage them. So here's something that happened on Tuesday. I've had in the last couple of months, I've had some of my long-standing patients um, point out a couple of things that they saw that is unusual at our front desk. So I had to. So the one said, "You know what? One of your gals missed converting two potential phone calls to new patients, and she's in sales, so she
Hmm.
got it. She got the message. So she's just listening there, and she comes
Yeah.
back, and first thing she says to me is, "Hi, did you know this is what happened?" So I had to, take a step back. I went through some of my stuff, and I had a meeting with the two ladies that answer about 95% of the phone calls. Okay, and I said, "Ladies, we got to take a step back. This is what we're going to do." So I gave them a new system. I gave them an article to read. I gave them, I hate, everybody talks about scripts. I get asked about scripts all the time. Uh, I hate
Yeah.
scripts.
Yeah.
I like, I like it.
Yeah. I'm not a big script guy. Yeah.
I like to call it a recipe for communication.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, because
Okay.
a script is what they do in Hollywood. You got to read the lines, and then there's an appropriate response. Well, me and you can read the same script, and it's going to come across differently. But if I give you a recipe for
Absolutely.
communication,
Yes.
you're going to read it your way, I'm going to read it my way, and as long as the recipe is there to get the end result, we're good to go. And some of the questions, the two
Yeah.
patients that we missed were all related to the Canadian Dental Care Plan, which is a hot topic amongst dentists today. But I just
Yeah.
want to go back to this one
Absolutely. Yes.
stat, okay? And I'm going to read this from one of my notes. And when you want to talk about marketing, I get up at my cottage. I'm just going to show you kind of this a little bit. It's a flyer,
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
school flyer. Look what they're giving away for free. A new patient exam and X-rays, a value of and a cleaning free. Okay,
Yeah.
how so? My question would be, as a patient, what else are you going to give me for free? How about a crown?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, then
now,
it's like what drives me nuts about this, and you see this a lot in sort of the orthodontic world, is
mhm,
the you just like there's a huge commoditization of that now. I see the
mhm.
same ad for Invisalign. It's just you flip through social media and it's one practice, the it's the same thing over and over again. What now you're training your patients to be just consumers now. And now it's not
Absolutely.
so
No,
much
even
about
worse.
you as an individual. It's awful. It's arguably this is my argument against it. It's really cheesing out on the profession. Like,
Oh,
to
totally.
me, the advertisement should be about the people. It should be about sort of I, as a consumer. Yeah, like I would go and spend. This is me personally. I wouldn't want to go cheap out on anything like that is medical. Like,
Right.
I don't want, like, you know what I mean. That's my mind.
Absolutely.
And the scary part is it's now like, what is this going to mean? Like, this is going to be just another race to the bottom, and it's already so tough for these clinics
Okay.
to drive profit.
You want to talk about the race to the bottom? Did you know that
Yeah.
Walmart had their healthcare division that closed down just the last week or the week
Okay.
before?
Yeah.
They closed it down because it wasn't profitable. So
Yeah.
if Walmart can't make it profitable,
Right.
oh wow, that's something interesting. But look at this stat. This isn't even a stat. So let me, patient your
Yeah.
contacts and your customers are going to say, well, Mark, I need new patients coming through the door. Okay, but let's look at how
Yes.
you've trained or maybe not trained your staff to answer the phone. So I did this just
Hmm.
kind of some rough math. Let's say every new patient is approximately worth $2,000 a year. I came up with that number because a lot of insurance benefit plans have a $2,000
Yeah.
annual limit. So let's say I get a new patient, I have the
Sure.
potential, if I'm just doing insurance dentistry. Okay, let's call it that. Insurance dentistry. We're not even going to talk about earlier in one of our other meetings, we talked about, the single tooth dentist. So let's say you're a single tooth dentist. You got $2,000 a year that's available from every new patient. So you get 15 calls a week to
Yeah.
your office. And let's say your front staff is good and they book 10 out of the 15. That's pretty good. That's a good percentage. It's not the average. So you got 5 patients that do not book because of maybe your staff just didn't do it. So that's $10,000 a week times, let's say 48 weeks, because you get some vacation time. That alone is worth $48,000 of lost income annually by doing nothing more than answering the phone and converting some patients to new patients. So take that number and that math
Yeah.
and work it into your practice. And all of a sudden, you're going to sit there
Hmm.
and say, wow, I just increased my gross by 480,000, and all we had to do was answer the phone properly and convert those patients.
And then it's like, I think I'm tooting your horn here. Like what you've done successfully, in your career is you've taken responsibility. You've taken responsibility of your systems. A lot of people will just point their finger at everyone else, at the marketing company, at the front end team. But taking responsibility, again, I know you've signed up, you've done a lot of courses, and you talk to a lot of people. It's You can't do it all on your own as well, right? You would go, your hair would be even more gray if that's the route you went. So I think what you've done is you've built great systems and you've put good people. You surrounded yourself with good people.
And I surrounded myself with great people over 38 years that made me look good
Yeah,
because I gave them
yeah,
the ability to take it to their level. So in the early days of developing the systems, what business do I have to tell my business team how to run the business or my assisting team how to
right.
set up their area? What I do is I say, these are my targets, these are my goals, this is what I want to see and accomplish. Go do it because you're the one that's working
Yeah.
there.
You know
You
what made
you
me
do
really,
that
yeah, yeah. What made me
because
really, made me a bit sad yesterday. I was in a great client out here in BC. I was in a great client's practice, and the practice manager came over to me and was like, I just had her, I just had the doctor on a podcast, and she kind of like, I wouldn't have any value on your podcast. It's like, everybody's got a part to play in this for us to be
Mhm.
successful. The guys that develop and make the equipment have to be, develop that to the utmost best, to the science. The engineers, to the team that's in the practice, to, all the way to the the instrument that you're using. Everybody's got to do their job for this industry to work.
Absolutely. 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 And it's you made an interesting point. Dentists love to point fingers, and they one of the biggest things I heard at the ODA, the Ontario Dental Association meeting a couple of weeks ago, that where we were at. One of the top practice issues is finding staff and retaining staff. And
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
very blessed in my career that staff turnover has never been a problem. Okay. We've kept our staff. If anybody's moved on, they've moved on for, good reasons. Okay. And if I hire somebody and
Mhm.
if I've made an error in judgment and they don't fit, they usually leave on their own. Haven't had to fire too many people because they realize that
Mhm.
their values and their morals may not fit with what we established in our practice, so they leave. Okay, so it's great. You don't have to fire them.
Right.
Um, but I said to one of the guys I was talking to at the ODA, and he's complaining about this, and this fella's he's, as long as I've known him, he's always complained, about everything. And I said, well, what are you doing to retain your team? And he says, what do you mean? And I said, do you give them some leadership skills? Use your leadership ability to make them better each day. Give them something. And he didn't even know what I was talking about. And I sat back and I thought,
Oh man.
dentists need to the good practices. And I have a lot of friends in my neighborhood here, and there's a lot of dentists in my neighborhood. Okay, everybody has a different practice, but the ones that keep their staff have a certain level of leadership. And it's leadership is not, they say, oh, you're born with it. No, not no. You're born with the ability to think, and leadership is something you develop
Hmm.
with time. And those that
Yeah.
develop good leadership skills will retain their staff. And that's the key. If you don't, they're going to be gone.
So so how does one that feels that they don't have those qualities, Dennis? What are three great tips for those folks out there that need some help in that arena? Like how should they be thinking? What's your sort of philosophy? Is there a good book that they should read? What would you recommend?
That's probably the toughest question because um, when I had
Mhm.
just finished preparing this course that we were going to talk that we were going to do. It was a 2 day communication and dentistry course. My references were two and a
Mhm.
half pages long because I've got 38 years of experience. Uh, and going back and figuring this out, uh, it's under, like, you can't do it in front of a computer. You can read, but you have to go out. So one of the first management courses I took was had nothing to do with dentistry. Nothing. I went to this program every Tuesday and Thursday night from 6 to 9 for 6 months. It was a little mini MBA
Right.
program in dentistry, and dentistry didn't even appear. The first thing they taught us was how to get along with others, communications, and sales. And that was like, oh
Right.
my God. And then they got into the business of it. So I think this was an
Yep.
accidental exercise that you develop these skills. And there's one group that I followed over the years, Paul Homily's group, and he talks about leadership a lot. And Paul is one of the best speakers you will ever run across. Um, and I use a lot of his philosophy in the management side of dentistry. Um, when I went to take my program with John Coyce in creating restorative excellence, well, it was dentistry was you're going there for the dentistry, but you're leaving there with like so much more. Just watching how he presents, how he treats everybody that's in his class. Those are the areas where you're going to get it. Books, I've read more books than I can shake a stick at. And you know, if you look at my bookshelf, you're going to go, is this guy on drugs?
Yeah.
Like, what's he reading? And you know, I subscribe.
Likewise.
I,
Same,
I,
same,
subs,
same.
yeah, you know, I subscribe to the Harvard Business Review. I mean, there's stuff there.
Yeah.
It's out there. And then you know you got to I there's a saying, you know, how do you eat an elephant? Because you know for a lot of dentists, what I'm talking about is an elephant. It's so big. Well, the best way to eat an
Yeah.
elephant is one bite at a time. Okay, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know I ran into an associate, one of my first associates in my practice, and she moved out of Toronto. Her husband, they live out in Eastern Ontario. They have two great practices, and when they saw me at the ODA, they came up and you know we communicated and chatted and talked, and they introduced me to their son. And he was a biomedical engineer. Okay, and he was just kind of perusing the floor, and they said, you know, she said to me, "You taught us so much, and we still use your interview questions that you started with 30 years ago." And I said, "Oh my God, I haven't hired anybody in
Awesome.
such a long time. I don't even know what those questions are anymore." Yeah, so you know, one thing
Right.
about leadership is creating more leaders. That is a true leader.
Yeah.
And in our practice,
Um,
I think
and
everybody has a
another,
has a leadership role.
I fully agree. And everybody's sort of, tackling the things that they tackle on their own fronts. And another big piece to this, is the outside parties as well. And a lot of trust plays into that. Like there's tons of people that are offering help. Yes, it comes with the dollar value attached. There's some great ROI on some of these things, and there's some people really great at delivering service, and then there's some people that are not. Um, what have you found over the years? How have you been successful and on kind of scoping out the duds and the winners in this, like when it comes to buying equipment or going to a course? Like, are you asking questions to your colleagues? Is it sort of been sort of more referral? Somebody else has used them. How have you found the most success in bringing outside people into the practice to for those extra hands as well?
Okay, so let's track back to when I was doing all this. So this all started in the late middle to late 90s. There was really no internet. There was no Google or Yelp reviews. So you had to talk to other people, and it was a matter of trust. So why do patients go ahead with my treatment plans? I don't typically have any issues presenting $10,000, $15,000 treatment plans or higher and getting acceptance. And insurance doesn't even come into the equation because you know that that's not going to happen. Well, first of all, whatever it is we do, there has to be the element of trust and how they trust you and
Hmm.
you trust them. Second is there has to be not like the mental connection is one thing. And you know, you have the analytics. You know, if I have an engineer in my chair, they want to know the nitty gritty. If I have somebody, you know, who's not in that science mode, they want the emotional impact. So, you know, Mark, you need a crown. Well, tell me how that crown's going to work. Well, if I just told the patient, well, I'm
Hmm.
going to cut down 2 millimeters of your tooth and blah, 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 they're going to go, no way. The engineer is going to go, interesting. What about the
Hmm.
biomechanical strength? So you've got a different energy there. But if I said to the patient, you know what this crown's going to do for you, Mark? You know how you came in with that broken tooth and it was an emergency and you had to miss your podcast and it cost you money? by allowing me to do just not only that crown, but the tooth next to it that's going to break soon, you're going to avoid all those emergency visits, and
Hmm.
it's going to be, so you've got to make that emotional connection as well. So fast forward to it was 2000, and now I finished this one program and I signed up with Experdent. Experdent was a management company that was big in Canada in those days, and it was going to cost a lot of money. Okay. I took my whole team there, and I took my entire team to almost every CE course I went to. And they knew in those days I like to sit in the front row. I was that guy. Okay. I'm in the front row. So they said,
Yeah.
how are we all going to get in the front
Yeah.
row? And I said, well, we'll see. I don't know how this is going to work. We go to the venue, and there's a concierge that's waiting for us. So there was 300 people, and there was about that translated to maybe about 50 or 60 dental clinics. Okay, Dr. Marangos, so nice to meet you and your team. And I'm going, okay, how did they know that? Well, later did I know that they had a whole thing printed with your picture and everything. They were just waiting for you to show up. And Dr. Moran goes, we've got a special seat reserved for you and your team, front row. I'm going, oh, this is kind of cool. So
Amazing.
now the lecture starts, and the fellow, his name was Imtiaz Manji. He's going through stuff, and midway in the morning, this was a 2 or 2.5 day course. He says, and he looks right at our team, and he said, "This is why you guys are stalled, Dr. Marangos. This is the answer to your problem." And he's pointing up on his slide, and he knew my stats. He knew everybody's stats in that room. That
Amazing.
created trust, and I'm sitting there
Yeah.
going, okay, we're signed up, like we're all in, like let's go. And that took us to the next
Yeah.
level. So that's how you kind of you go around you. And the only reason we took that course because my associate at the time attended a 1 day lecture by Experdent, and he said, we got to do this. I trusted his opinion, and I signed us
Yeah.
all up for it. So and now,
That's amazing. But like a
you
good
know
example of somebody like doing like it's making it about you. They've done the research to make sure that they're delivering value. I think that's we all seek value. And
and that's
that's
no
cool. That's
different.
that's a cool
And
story.
that Yeah, and that's no different than a new patient coming to your practice. So when my new patients come in, they
Yes.
see me. I've got my pink sheet. I know why they're there. I know who referred them. I know
Mhm.
when they made the phone call and how long it took them to get in to see me. So and just on the
Yeah.
opposite end, when we have our morning huddle, and you see Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith is coming in. She's upset because of something that happened. Well, do I go in and then do I wait for Mrs. Smith to start yelling at me? I go, no, this is what I do is I say, hey, Mrs.
Yeah.
Smith, nice to see you. I hear that you're upset because that last filling we did, blah, 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 or that crown or whatever. And
Yeah.
what have I just done? Diffused their ability to argue with me. And I tell them, I'm going to fix that problem. It's not
Mm.
going to cost you a penny. Let's do it. And it's
Yeah.
that's what they come
So
to see
back
it.
to your pink sheet. I want to talk about your pink sheet. So there's a bit of a delay, so I apologize. Back to
Yeah.
your pink sheet. So we've actually what our service we've digitized this, and
Hmm.
this is you've created a customer relationship management system. It's all part of like
Okay.
delivering good services, that relationship management, like sales as salespeople out there now, like the guys that do really well in sales these days are utilizing a really powerful software set that is deeply rooted in CRM, customer relationship management. And at the end of the day, that's what your patients are. Yes, they are your patients, but they're your customers. And
Hmm.
to like wrap your head around that as a clinician. I know it's not, you don't want to go that route, but I would focus more on your customer relationships, your patient relationships. Then I would focus on giving somebody a $500 deal on Invisalign. That at the end of the day, you're going to get the new patients if you and long-term patients if you focus on the relationship, not just on that commodity, on the here's your money off, here's your free toothbrush, here's your free whitening kit. The the growing a practice is all about keeping the patient. At the end of the
Absolutely.
day, if you offer something up as a gimmick, if you're selling your service as a gimmick, that you're going to attract the person that's going to go after that next gimmick the next time they know it need to go see the dentist. If you attract
Absolutely.
that person for being a partner in their oral health over a long term, you're like dentist, you've invested in these tools and now you've got this cool AI tool where you can really bring your patients through the journey of their oral health and make them, you're a partner in their life for that. That's what folks should be focusing on. Like that's what we strongly believe in. So Dentist on Demand, we've built the CRM, the pink sheet, but it's all
Mhm.
digital.
Well, when you talk about free, I every so often I'll get a question from a patient. Why don't I do free consults? I don't do free consults because a free consult is worth
Mm,
exactly what you paid for it. If they don't have any skin in the game, they are not going to pay attention. So even if my initial consult or assessment, even if I charge $50, that's $50
yeah.
that they're paying and they've got skin in the game. Now, if I elect to reduce the cost of a treatment by $50, to counter that, that's up to me. But typically, I
Yes.
wouldn't do that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't do
Is
the
that in the
free.
feed guide though? Like they
What's that?
can they can that's in the like a consult is in the feed guide, isn't it? Like can't somebody just
Yeah, and you
use their insurance to pay for it?
um yes, of course. Yeah, there's a code. There's a code for that. But you'll see free
Yeah.
consults for this, for that, and you can't do anything. Like it's yeah, no. I like to charge at least something to say okay, this is what we're looking at. Now you have to come in and we have to do the more comprehensive exam if that's what you want to do, and so on and so forth. But when
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
when you're talking about your customer management sheet in dentistry, we call that diagnostic opinions. You need to present your cases.
Okay.
First of all, if a patient comes in saying, "I've got a toothache up here," and you're busy talking to them about Invisalign and veneers, and you don't address the problem they came in with, guess what? They're gone. They're gone. So the first thing you need to
Yeah.
do is you address that problem, and then you have to word it to say, in order for us to get to the root of that problem, we need to do this, 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 and this to make sure that we're understanding how severe this is or could be. So yeah, so in our world, I mean, we like to talk about the gums, the bite, the function, and the aesthetics. But when it comes to treating a patient, everybody wants to look good, but you got to start from inside the mouth, get the gums healthy, get the function, the TM joint, and the occlusion right, then design what you're going to do, and then the end
Mhm.
result, the aesthetics will kind of fall into place if you follow through a plan. Most dentists don't have a systemized plan for
Yeah.
for their diagnosis and their exam. And when I hear dentists say, oh man, we get 40, 50 new patients a month. Fantastic. Who's doing the new patient exam? They're like, well, they're going through hygiene. I
Yeah.
said, okay, so you drop in for
Right.
5 minutes and you charge $160 for 5 minutes. You have just
Yeah.
wasted the most valuable opportunity to create a relationship with that patient. So in our practice,
Yes.
ev-
Yes.
every new patient comes through the dentist. We make a periodontal diagnosis so that
Ah,
we're just bringing in two more hygienists because our perio program is like they're waiting too long to get in. So we had to find two more hygienists to bring in. We only have four operatories. So we're making the best use, and that's where the management team made the decision to bring more hygienists in on days, maybe when I'm not here, where the other doc's not here, and we just kind of double or triple up whenever we can. But yeah, I mean, a periodontal diagnosis is key. Otherwise, they're getting a spit and polish every 6 months or 9 months, and you're wondering,
yeah.
how come my income isn't so great, right? So yeah, no, every new patient comes through the
Right.
dentist. Yeah.
I love it.
So
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hygiene is such an important piece of the practice, but yes, absolutely. Like, you need to get your hands in there, or else,
so
and asking the questions. Like,
so here's, I get asked this question. We talk dentists hate doing hygiene recall exams because typically you're right in the middle of something and your hygienist is standing behind you, staring through you, and you're feeling their pain. So what we do at our morning huddle is we plan the hygiene visits. So if I know I have to do 5 hygiene checks, I'm telling the hygienist, okay, I've got Mark in the chair here. While I give Mark his local, I'm going to come in and do my check on you. And it could be at the beginning of the appointment or at the end of the appointment or in the middle of the appointment. It's this way, you gotta plan your day. And I said, okay, so you're complaining about new patients. Well, how many hygiene checks did you do today? Oh, okay, I did 5. You just had an opportunity to revisit 5 new patients because the last time you saw them was maybe 6 months ago. Things change in 6 months. Maybe
yeah,
that seed you planted 6 months ago
yeah,
is germinating and you got to take the time to revisit that. So if you look at your hygiene recare exams as an opportunity to recultivate a relationship with a patient, take it. That patient is already in your practice. You
absolutely.
don't have to you don't have to invest anymore. They already trust you because they're coming back. That's a simple
Yeah.
one.
And what would you say? What percentage of your, like, who comes to see you for these big ticket things? It's always like this. It's an ongoing conversation, an ongoing diagnostic. You're watching them over time. Those patients are going to do these high ticket Invisalign type all in fours or cosmetic type of cases. Um, here's, like, in the marketing world, it just seems to be such a weird such a weird time from my vantage point. I'm seeing all these great great dentists out there just focusing on all the wrong things. You know what I mean? I just, to me, it screams that there's a lot of people that are lost. There's a lot of folks that are
Totally.
lost out there, and I understand why all these groups are growing, because they just don't want to do all the business side of things. They just want to do the dentistry and not have to focus on these things. And even, like, there's been some cases where, on the marketing standpoint, we're doing all the right things. The data's there, the traffic's there, we're converting, and it's all going well. And the dentist pulls the plug. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
So
Um,
Mark here.
it's strange. It's
Okay.
such a strange time. Nobody trusts anybody.
So here's um, there was a study. This is probably going back over 10 years ago, and I think it was Pete Dawson, who has since passed away, had said that if you have 12 to 1500 active patients in your practice today, and you know and learn how to do comprehensive dental care, you will not need another new patient in your practice for the rest of your career. So the
Hmm.
big problem is when it comes to return on your investment, you asked. So I had my most wonderful experience with John Coyce's group. I've studied with Frank Spear. I've studied with Pete Dawson and his group, and I've done a few of the Pankey courses, which is another large group. Those are the groups that are going to re-energize you into loving dentistry again. It all starts with understanding that part of comprehensive care in dentistry. There's no quick fix. I told a patient today. I said, we're gonna get you better, but you have to realize that it took you 10 years to get this bad. It's not going to take you 10 years to get better, but it's not going to take 10
Yeah.
minutes either. So we have patients who
Wow.
are, when you ask about these bigger cases, they're already in my practice. And then when you do one of those,
They're
they're going
there.
to
They're
show
there. Oh,
somebody
yes,
else.
they're there. They're there.
And
Yeah.
then you're going to get somebody else that's coming in because they loved what you did for them. You're not going to get these big
Yeah.
cases by sending out flyers and advertising, free cleanings and free exams. That's not how you're going to get the big cases. So,
No.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it is working out there, though. I will say, there, like,
Oh,
we
for
have
sure.
a service called Diamond Plus Growth Partners, and there are folks that just want Invisalign out there, but we try and do it the classy way. We want to turn those Invisalign patients into long-term patients. So there's a whole part of the relationship piece that we build into it, so that they're coming in for their treatment. There's no like big gimmicky giveaways. It's more like we're the Invisalign provider. We're going to do this great treatment. This is why you should come to see us. And here's our wonderful staff and all the other good
So,
packaged things into that. Let's like to grow a practice. To grow a practice is, yes, you need to acquire new patients, but you stated it right there. The 1,500 patient base, you could be, you're fine. Like it's taking care of those folks that are in your practice at the end of the day.
because you said it. Your When I say your job, the marketing company's jobs are to drive patients to that practice. Then it becomes the responsibility of the dentist and their team to retain and manage those patients. And we have to realize that we were not trained in doing that in dental school. That is why. So you were at the
Yeah.
course last year when that one fella asked me to put together a course on communication and how to talk to patients. And it's taken me a year to do it. And now hopefully we're going to launch something in the fall. We're just working on dates and stuff. And as soon as it launches, I'll let you know. But he realized, and he
Please.
was a smart guy, and he realized that he's taken all these courses, but he doesn't know how to communicate it to the patients and translate that his education to actual treatment. And there's so many dentists sitting out there with a great
Yeah.
knowledge base. They just don't know what to do next and how to get the patients to do it. And then, like you said
And
earlier, they blame
the
somebody
skill, the
else.
knowledge, and yes. Yeah.
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 So
Yes. That's me, Dennis. It's me. But hey, people are paying good money. I get it. But just a huge part of that too is that the front end and the front end's capability to again communicate. There's two different sides to the front end coin. There's the patient facing white glove service that brings them in, and then there's the answering the phones and turning these patients into patients of record, right? So conversion, it's not taught anywhere. It really is up to these doctors to really, and the team as well, to take it on and learn the things that they need to do and implement good systems.
Mark, I know we're getting close to the end. My two main ladies at the front
Yep.
desk, our office manager and our patient coordinator, both had when they were hired zero dental experience. The only thing they knew about dentistry was brushing their teeth.
Yep.
They both came from the restaurant industry, which is service,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they know how
A
to
service.
communicate and talk to
Yep. Yep.
patients. It was our job to train them and develop their skill set in the dentistry model. And that's why I had my little meeting with them today to say, okay, next chapter, this is what we got to do. We got to up our game because we've kind of let things slip.
Yeah.
And when patients of record are noticing that's a warning sign to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis, this has been awesome. You were right. We're up against time here. I gotta take my little girl to soccer here. So, man, oh man, we can talk for hours. I know that we can. Let's do this again. Let's make sure that let me know about that course in the fall.
Yep, I will.
What again? Thank you so much. I got about 1,000 more questions. Keep sending me all these analytical pieces that you have. It's been so helpful. I
Cool.
really
Good.
appreciate you. I've got to see you lecture multiple times, and it's such a joy. The energy that you put out it's infectious. So thank
Cool.
you.
I love it. Well, thank you for inviting me back, and I hope we will change some lives, open up some minds for some dentists, and we'll
Yeah.
go from there. So, looking forward to seeing you at Vancouver Stanley Cup Parade when they
Hey,
win
there
the
you
cup.
go. And hey, to get there, to get there, Dennis, what is it? It's like eating an elephant, right? It's like, let's just one bite at a time
One
here.
bite at a time. Perfect.
All right. Great chat. We'll chat soon.
Take care. Have a good night.